Okay, welcome everybody to this week's, our first official of the series, the Financial Advisory Series. So we did have Rhonda Korlick as our kickoff last week. She was at a different time. The rest of the series will all be at the same time. We just had to make an exception for Rhonda because, of course, she was joining us from Australia, and right now it was literally the middle of the night for her there. So. All right, so today, let's see here, that's just myself, your host, Tanya Hiltz. I am a certified professional bookkeeper and the founder of Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp and Cloud Bookkeeping Services. There's just quick my accolades. You guys can read through them if you would like. Just the ones to point out that we're most proud of. Of course, we are Intuit's Global Firm of the Future for 2018, and our Bookkeepers Bootcamp qualified for IPBC continuing education credits in the fall of 2018. So that's pretty huge. We're the first member educational program to be just given the credits right up. So that's a pretty big accomplishment that we're pretty proud of. I'm not going to bother going through the rest. I'm sure many of you have been on many of these webinars and have already seen that. So this webinar series has been submitted for continuing education credits through the IPBC. We have not got the confirmation back yet. Just simply, it's a bit of a slower process. Can take several weeks, up to several weeks for approval on that, and we had to have everybody set and scheduled in to be able to submit for the credits. We are going ahead assuming that it will be approved, and if it is approved, then there of course will be the 2 poll questions. So we'll be asking those kind of midway through. In order to qualify for the C credits, you must answer both polls. So we will give time, we'll count down, but definitely pay attention to get both those polls to get your credits. A recording of the webinar will be emailed within 2 days, and the certificates, once we've got approval, will be emailed within 2 weeks, or if the approval takes a little bit longer, then those will take a little bit longer for us to catch up. So here's the schedule. So today we have Chata with us. So I am going to just stop sharing here. And Haley from Chata, you can just take right on over.
Hey, awesome. Thank you so much for having us, Tanya. I'm going to go ahead and actually share my screen right away because we'll jump right into it. I've got some great content for everyone today, so I'm excited. So I'm going to go ahead and share. And I'll just let everyone who is listening today know that one of my teammates, Erica Lister, is actually joining the webinar, and she'll be in the chat. So if you have specific Chata questions that Tanya might not be able to answer at this time, go ahead and ask her right away. She'll get back to you nice and quickly in there. So watch out for Erica Lister in that chat. Okay, everyone can see my screen? Yeah? Looking good? Okay, let's get into it. So today, Chata.ai, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do, but I really want to focus today's session on data-driven advisory, so delivering high-impact advisory services, and you might choose Chata to do that. So thanks so much, Tanya, for inviting us to be here today. It's a great privilege to be included in this advisory webinar series, and thank you for organizing and putting it on. It's really exciting for us apps to be included in this really, really important discussion that's going on across the industry right now. So as I just mentioned, today we'll be discussing how to analyze your client's data to provide him high impact advisory. And we certainly welcome questions and conversations. So jump into that chat and get active in there. So Chata.ai, what the heck is Chata? I saw a couple of familiar faces in the attendees list, so you might have met us before. But we're a cloud-based application that transforms the way you access, analyze, and report on business data. So in short, we make it easy for business owners to get answers to the important questions that they have about their business. And ultimately, it's our mission to equip financial professionals like yourselves, the trusted advisors of these businesses, with the ability to quickly and easily create meaningful, customized reporting and analytics solutions for their clients through our AI-driven system. So before we really get into it, I'll introduce myself and tell you a little bit about the Chata team. So my name's Haley. I am the Customer Success Manager at Chata.ai. We're a team of self-proclaimed tech nerds, Star Wars enthusiasts, and candy fanatics. So if you want to know the way to our heart, candy is the way. And we're really, really passionate about the power of data. So that's me. That's us at Chata. We're a pretty friendly bunch. Let's start talking about the good stuff. Let's get into the meat of it. So here's the thing about data. Data represents an objective truth. It tells the story of a business over time. By accessing, understanding, and ultimately leveraging the objective truth or the data, our actions can be driven by the truth instead of more subjective tendencies such as intuition or emotion. So this is a really, really important point, especially when we're talking about your clients as business owners who have a million things going on. They're wearing 21 hats. They can experience overwhelm even if they don't recognize it. And oftentimes they end up making decisions based on gut instinct or what they feel is the right thing to do in that moment. So in these cases, one of two things can happen. They're either lucky or they're wrong. So data-driven decisions are objective. They tell the true narrative of the business over time, and the impact of these decisions can be easily measured and evaluated against the prior state of the business. I think we're all well aware of the shift that's happening in this advisory space. Oh, just let me change my slide here. So as financial professionals, data has the power to be your greatest asset, ally, and opportunity. So the shift happening in the space, in particular bookkeeping, from data entry to data management, and now advisory beyond bookkeeping best practices for compliance sake. Because we now have the opportunity with automation to support with these things, data entry and high quality data management. We have both the capacity, if we choose, and the quality of data to move into strategic and operational advisory role, recognizing that the finances and the financial performance can show us a reflection of how the business is performing. In this advisory space, you are in partnership with your clients. Your role now more than ever shifts to one of empowerment. So as an advisor, you assist and guide your clients to make decisions grounded in the data. And this not only sets your client up for greater success, but it shifts the very nature of your relationship with them too. So with this shifted dynamic, the client-advisor relationship benefits from increased transparency, increased accountability, which consequently improves collaboration, engagement, and overall positive sentiments about their relationship with you and ultimately their finances. And isn't it just the dream to for your clients to be as fired up about their books as you are? This is a paradigm shift that's really happening. So, true data understanding breeds clarity and peace of mind. Data-driven decision making also creates the opportunity for you to educate and provide value. Therefore, allow your clients to become more agile. So they can easily identify opportunities or risks more quickly. It allows them to focus on their customers and the things that help them drive revenue and profitability. You give them peace of mind, which is massive. You help them feel in control and work with them to set smart goals and measure the results that they're now accountable to. You take ego and emotion and personality out of the equation, and it's immediately a more positive conversation because it's fact-based and objective. It isn't all rainbows and butterflies, though. There's a lot of obstacles overcome to get to this dream state. There's a ton of challenges when it comes to data: time, cost, access, accuracy, data literacy, knowledge transfer, rigid tools that are marketed as solutions, difficult to learn software, the list goes on. Identifying what data is important to be analyzed. I think we take for granted as financial professionals that you're power users of the accounting software, and it's your job or our job to enable the non-power users, so your clients, to take advantage of the data that lives in those systems because they need it to be successful at their jobs. So, current state, a lot of the time, the immense power that lives in the data remains largely untapped. So there's a huge opportunity that we have. At Chata, what we believe is that data-driven decision-making should be the new normal. So we need to transform the way people access, analyze, and report on their data by making the process more intuitive and attainable for more people. So through your own advisory journey, we'll never tell you what it means to be an advisor. Ultimately, that's up to you to define. But we'll recognize that part of this shift means that just the P&L and balance sheet, so those financial statements at month or quarter end, is no longer the deliverable, the sole deliverable that you aim to provide. So it means tying the financial performance to the operational performance and happenings, and ultimately the overarching business goals and strategy. I think many of the viewers that are tuning in today, you're already doing this in some capacity, but I'll reiterate that it's a journey. So having a goal of continuous learning of new tactics and tools you can implement in your practice and client conversations are always really important steps forward. So hats off to you for joining in on this series. Okay, so this all sounds great, cool, but how do we get there? So let's talk a little bit about Chata now. So there's many awesome tools and solutions that are being offered to financial professionals like yourselves, and you'll learn about many of them throughout the series. So today I'm obviously excited to talk about Chata as a potential solution. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about how Chata works. So the foundation of Chata.ai is advanced natural language understanding technology. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, it's a really big topic. It can feel a little bit intimidating. So I just want to get really clear that the AI part of Chata that we're really focused and dialed in on is natural language understanding. So that means ask questions, get answers. It's actually quite simple, and we're going really deep in that area. So we'll provide financial professionals like yourselves the ability to find insights in your client's data by performing a simple search, much like typing a query into Google. And by employing artificial intelligence, our system recognizes queries or questions of varying complexity and returns the information a user asks for in seconds, supporting an unprecedented way to slice and dice the data. So it's actually really simple. Ask questions, get immediate answers from anywhere at any time. So you can almost think of it like Siri, but for your data. The app itself features fully customizable dashboards, automated reporting, in-app collaboration, drill down functionality, multiple integrations of data sources, weather-based sales analysis, PDF exporting, and more. So we've got a really comprehensive solution here. The core is asking for what you want and getting those answers. So today's plan, we are going to go through a step-by-step guide helping your clients become data-driven. We're going to go through a specific use case using Chata.ai, so that'll be the demo component of the day today. Bonus data chat feature highlight, so we'll talk about that, and then group Q&A at the end. So we've talked about the challenges around advisory, a little bit about the opportunity, and a little bit about the solution. So now it's time to get into the fun stuff. So we're going to work through a template of how to help your clients make data-driven decisions, set the stage, go through that use case, and then we'll show you how to deliver or create a better client experience at scale for your advisory services. Cool. So step-by-step guide. The lucky 7. So a step-by-step guide in moving towards a more data-driven culture and a data-driven relationship with your client with regards to advisory. So first things first, you need to understand the maturity of your client's data-driven culture, define the objectives, establish the hypothesis, build a process, identify data holes, create processes in addition to the ones you've already created, and start collecting data, analyze the data, make a decision. So we'll go through this again at the end, or more so, I will go through these steps in detail. So step 1, understand the maturity of your client's data-driven culture. So this is really important. The first thing that you need to do is understand where the client is currently at, where they're coming from. So another way to think of this is to consider what your client's current relationship with data is. And this is the first thing you'll need to identify if you haven't already had this conversation. I'd also challenge that this should be an ongoing conversation as your client grows and as their understanding and relationship with data evolves. It will help you in learning about their business, including discovery of business strategy and operations. It's a really powerful question that can help you position yourself to have a seat at that strategic conversation level. So what are some of the stages? I actually took this image from another app company called Smartsheet. They've got some really great content around being data-driven and having a data-driven culture, so I encourage you to dig into that. But here are the 5 stages. So data denial, the organization starts with, is distrusting of the data and they don't use it. Data indifference, company has no interest whether data is collected or used. Data aware, the business is collecting data and may use it for monitoring, but not base decisions on it. And I think that this is really where the bulk of your clients are living, potentially, is in this data aware space, because we're collecting the financial data. They're likely using other software systems to run their business, and data is being stored in there. They're monitoring it, but actually being a truly data-driven culture is kind of that next step. So I'm going to make the assumption that most people are kind of in this stage, or the data informed stage. So data informed is that managers or leaders within the organization are using data very selectively to aid in decision making. And then data driven, this is really like the ultimate goal, is that data is playing a central role in as many decisions as possible across the organization. So this, and even this will evolve. If you reach step 5, this will continue to evolve and grow over time. So with that being said, we're going to do our first poll. So Tanya, whenever you're ready, do I need to stop my screen share for this? Nope. Amazing.
Nope. There we go. Sorry, I had to take my mute off. Nope. So first poll is up. So we'll just keep this up. We'll just kind of, to bide the time, I'll read the question aloud and read the answers, and hopefully people will start voting. So your relationship with data and the maturity of your firm's data culture is either data denial, you don't trust the data, don't know how to use it. Data indifference, you have no interest in whether it's collected or used. Data aware, you collect business data, use it for monitoring, but not for decision making. Data informed, you use data selectively when making a decision. And data driven, data is essential to decision making process across your organization. So we're at 76% voting right now, so we'll give it a bit another 20 seconds.
A good exercise to take a look at what's going on within your own firm, because you are a business owner as well. So having that level of awareness will help you to kind of encourage your clients and help you ask the questions, because you've already asked them to yourself. So I always like to encourage to take a look inside first, and then as kind of that practice ground, so that you can, do that with your clients as well.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, we've got 86% voted. We'll give it 10 more seconds before we have to end the polling. And remember, both polls need to be answered for the continuing education credits. So we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the polling, I'll just share the results. So 52% use it selectively when making a decision, 22% collect it but don't and use it for monitoring but not really decision making, and 26% are in the 5th, which it's essential to decision making progress across their organization.
Cool, that's outstanding. I like the skew of those results there.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, we'll stop sharing. I'll mute myself and you can take back over again.
Cool.
Perfect.
All right, so we're back into it. We'll go on to step 2. So step 2, define the objective. So when you're defining goals and objectives, again, this should be a structured, ongoing conversation with the client. And what happens at this stage is the groundwork for the accountability going forward. So you'll identify stakeholders in the project, make sure everyone understands the value of data-driven decision-making and the basic principles. And of course, it's most important in this step to define SMART goals. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based goals. One thing to point out here is that there almost certainly will be some exploratory data analysis required to set the SMART goals to determine what is relevant, what timelines make sense. So kind of a shameless plug here, Chata is an extremely powerful tool for this, because a lot of questions will come out of this process and we can help you uncover those answers quickly and easily. So when setting SMART goals, I often hear people or some app companies as well throw out numbers like, if we improve 5%, sales 5% this quarter, then this will happen. Boost sales by 10%. Throwing out these kind of random numbers that, they're not backed up by anything. And that's great as a conversation starter. but it's important to have a really clear and solid understanding of the history and what it will take to get there. 10%, maybe that company is growing 10% already month over month. So that's, not a relevant number. So just getting clear on what it makes sense for the goals of that business, and being specific. So this determines where the business this means determining where the business wants to be and what changes need to happen beyond the business's current state. Step 3, define your questions. So this process is extremely important because if you do this work up front, identifying what data needs to be collected, how it's currently being connected, are there any changes to the process that we can improve? You'll have much lower costs, not just money, but also time spent, stress, and so on in the long run. One of the biggest challenges of data-driven decision-making is the vastness of it all. The sheer amount of data that's now available to us because of cloud software solution products can be really overwhelming. I mentioned this a little bit earlier with regards to the business owner. So identifying what data is actually important to that business challenge is really key here. So what specific business questions are you hoping to answer? This will come back or be drawn from those SMART goals. Use if-then statements to start brainstorming areas of opportunity or risk. So if we take action X, then this might happen. Or if we look at this data, then we might also want to take a look at this data. So use those statements to start brainstorming. Identify the data sources that will help you uncover the answers to these questions, and I'll get into this a little bit more later, but I think oftentimes we get stuck in this bubble of the cloud accounting software, whether that's QuickBooks Online or Xero or Sage or whatever it is. This is all that I'm looking at, and there's a little bit of a risk involved in that because there is so many other sources of data that might be important to that business challenge. But again, we'll talk about this in a moment. Step 4, build a process. And you'll notice I have build a process in here a couple of times. Defining processes throughout different stages of the journey is really important. And I know that most of you are extremely process driven. So defining these things in advance can be really helpful. So now that you have identified the data that you need, you'll need to build some process around collecting and analyzing. So as an advisor, you have several sources of data that you're pulling from, both consciously and subconsciously all the time. So to be clear here, I'm talking about moving outside of the realm of QBO. So what I just touched on, yes, valuable data lives in QBO, but it's not the only source of data that matters to that client's business goals. So every conversation, sorry, let me back up here. Data is simply information. So when it comes to your clients, where else are these data sources coming from? Every conversation that you have with your client is a source of data. Every question that they ask is a point of data. Depending on the challenge you're solving, data like customer feedback, point of sale software data, inventory data, and so on, it all has its place and holds the importance. It just depends on if it's relevant to that business challenge. You also need to determine the quality of the data. So to do this, you can ask questions like, who collected it? How was it collected? Is it reliable, i.e. were the same parameters used consistently? How was the data sampled? Is it a representative of an ongoing reality or simply of one point in time? So there's a really long list of things that you can look at here, and we'll likely write a blog post at some point, so stay tuned for that. For now, the really critical question to ask is, why have I decided to analyze the data in one way in particular versus another way? Step number 5, moving along here nicely, identifying holes in the data, creating processes, and collect. So you already have access to the accounting software. What could be better, or what is missing from the financial data? So are there holes in the data? Is that client, a common thing that we'll see is there's a journal entry that summarizes the sales in a week, for example. There's so much data that goes into the sales in a week. A journal entry is not necessarily representative of the details that might be important. Same thing with the expenses. There's a lot of amazing tools, but their sole mission is to get that data into QBO as fast as possible. So oftentimes it's kind of high level and there's a lot of details left out that might be really important. So these are some things to just kind of think about Another thing might be organization. So a great example, and it's one that I'm going to work through in our demo today, is using like classes or class tracking categories in Xero, classes in QBO. Is there a better way to organize and arrange the data so that it can be more easily leveraged? Do you have the resources to commit to high quality data and data management? So do you have buy-in and capability? The assumption here is that you already do. They've hired you as their advisor and bookkeeper. But the commitment to being a data-driven culture is just another conversation in terms of, do you have the resources, and is everyone on board with why it's important and the impact that it can have on the business? Finally, collect the data. So assign roles, even if they're already established. It creates clarity. Who's responsible for what? If there's any processes required for collecting the data, for example, data entry, getting their receipts over to you, whatever it is, there's about 101 different processes in bookkeeping, and this is really, really critical in quality control. High quality data management is a must. So in bookkeeping, this is typically your responsibility. However, I know there's varying levels of how involved the client might be. So that's something to consider. And then finally, what other data sources are you working with, and how do you manage the quality of that data? And then one last point here is to validate for accuracy and usability. So that's typically done in that weekly or monthly review of the books when you're talking about the accounting data. Step 6 is analyze. So you're just about ready to bring the data story to life. And this is also where Chata can take on the really heavy lifting for you, as it's typically the stuff that feels high cost or pricey. Again, referring more to just financial costs here. It can include money, maybe it's time, the resources, and Chata can really help alleviate a lot of that. You'll largely be dealing with quantitative numbers in Chata unless you're working with hospitality clients. In that case, you might take advantage of our reputation management functionality via our integration with popular review sites. That's for another day, and we can go over that in the Q&A if someone's interested, and I'm always more than happy to connect on a demo. And then quantitative analysis is normally dealing with numbers and is fairly linear and familiar to most financial professionals, so it's a little bit less nuanced than qualitative analysis. So to analyze, we make it easy to do the exploratory analysis, leverage reports and dashboards for consistent performance tracking, and then make it easy to get answers on an ad hoc basis is going to be really important to your clients. Step 7 is to make a decision. So, we'll work through a specific example here. And so when we come to the data-driven, the decision-making part of the component, there's always a next step. Like, this is a really, cyclical process, and you might jump from step to step, so it might not happen in linear order. But here, let's talk about making that decision. So present the findings. Is it consumable for the reader or the user? So using clear and concise writing, graphics, and visualizations can be really helpful in this when it's appropriate. Connect the insights to the SMART goals. So how did you perform? Are you on track when it comes to your goals? Are there any course corrections required? Are the SMART goals still relevant? Sometimes when businesses are moving really fast, goals and priorities can shift. So it's important to stay on top and continue having that conversation. Next, you're going to define action. So what now? It's important to set clear expectations with the stakeholders around decision making. So what I'm trying to get to here is avoiding analysis paralysis. So I need more data. I need more data to make a decision, because that can happen. At what point are you satisfied with the information that you have that you can now take next steps? Formulate an implementation strategy. So once you've defined those next steps, if a decision is made and action is required, how are those actions and projects then managed? This might be where you start to take a back seat to the business owners and the team's processes, or maybe you're very much involved and it might be on a case-to-case basis with each client. So that's up for you to decide. And setting clear expectations. Hopefully you've done this at the beginning when we talked about defining roles and whatnot, but setting clear expectations about the go forward and about what they bring to that decision-making conversation. will be really helpful. Do we have any questions in the audience, or how are we doing?
The only question so far, which I kind of flagged for near the end, is just will slides be available? So
yeah, we can make it available for sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, if everything goes out, I can't do an attachment to the Zoom email, but if you can give me a link to them, great. And if not, just give them to me. I'll throw them into like my Google Drive to share and link to everybody.
Awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah.
We're just about ready to jump into Chata, so I'll just finish with these last two slides here. So what we're really talking about here is going from what's going on in the business. Those financial statements are really good at displaying what. Sometimes you might do some KPI tracking. That's what's happening. But why is it happening, and how are you going to take action? So as financial professionals, this is where the value that you bring to your clients is really amplified. Deeper insights, greater value for the client, better business for you. This is really high value stuff. You can charge a lot of money for this. So this is a huge opportunity for you as you look to grow your business and increase the value of your offerings. This is huge. This is like CFO level work, right? Okay, so we're just about to jump in, but we'd love to connect with you. So you can screenshot this slide if you want. We want to learn from you, grow with you, hear your feedback, and continue to empower you and your clients on your advisory journey. So please connect with us on social. You can find us at the Chata HQ. You can send us an email to support@Chata.ai. That's a really good direct line to me. And then our website is www.chata.ai. So go ahead and jump in there. And then I think it's time for the demo. So I'm going to just navigate over. Can you still see my screen here? Yep, looking good. Cool. So I'm going to log into Chata.ai. So with all of this amazing background information, I'm going to take you through, a full kind of story with Chata, and I'm going to give you a demo with a specific use case. So, keep your mind open. This is really an example in a use case, and this should look different with every client. Those same kind of processes and procedures, but the exact, use case will likely be different with almost everybody. I'm going to flip on over to Plumbing Co. So this is our demo data source. You actually do have access to a demo data source in Chata. So if you want to connect with us at a later time, we can show you how to get that set up so you can just test and play with the application. So we can take that offline. I'll just give you a bit of a lay of the land of the application here before we get into, the thick of it. So I'm working with a plumbing company. We've got products and services. We are using classes for tracking different business lines. So that's just a little bit of background on Plumbing Co. We've been around since about 2016. This is a live business actually that we keep up to date. So good source of data. We're working with dashboards. Data chat is where you go to ask questions, get answers. So this is really that Siri-like functionality. We're going to be typing our questions in today. You can use voice-to-text technology. And then reports and reporting templates we'll get into a little bit as well. So if you have any questions while I'm working within Chata, please press that chat button or jump into the Q&A. Erica will be super happy to answer those questions as I'm chatting your ears off. So go ahead and jump in there. So I just talked a little bit about our plumbing company, and as the accountant or financial professional bookkeeper, I've set up their accounting data with tracking categories, class tracking in QuickBooks, and I'm making the assumption, Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, that most people in our audience today are really QuickBooks Online users for the most part, or do we have a combination?
I would say we've got a combination. Probably mostly QBO, but the Bookkeepers Corner group where this has primarily been advertised is I guess, software neutral. So.
Okay, love that. Because you're Intuit's Firm of the Future last year, I went for a QuickBooks for this demo. So for your guys' knowledge, we're integrated with QuickBooks Online. We're integrated with Xero, Sage Business Cloud Accounting. We're also integrated with some other data sources. So Stripe, point of sale software. So super powerful for those e-commerce SaaS clients, nonprofits that are using for event tracking. We're just about done our integration with Square. We're just about ready for that CSV upload as well. And then we also bring in weather data, lay it on top of sales data, so that might be relevant for some businesses. And the data source list is growing and growing. So, so that's our current list of integrations. For this example, we're going to use QuickBooks Online, class tracking. Class tracking provides the accountant. I have a feeling that most of you are familiar with how to use classes. I recognize that it's not available in all levels of the QuickBooks Online software packages, but we're making the assumption that this person does today. So class tracking provides the accountant and business a way to customize reporting and analysis for departments, different lines of business or revenue streams, locations, properties, or projects. So once you've set up the classes in QBO, you can start assigning transactions to these classes. It's a really powerful tool to organize data within QuickBooks Online. So for this example, my client wants to increase their revenue and grow their business like most clients out there. They want to increase their profitability. As the advisor, I want to take a look at my client's data to make strategic data-driven decisions and set them up for success with their business goals. I'm going to state that this particular client is somewhere between data aware and data informed. So they're actively collecting data and monitoring it, and sometimes they're using data in their decision-making process. Their overarching objective is to grow revenue. There is some exploratory analytics that we need to perform in order to set those SMART goals. The first thing that I want to do with this client is get an understanding of what services or products my client's business is offering. I start out by using the data chat functionality to ask questions about the business to gain insights. And specifically, I'm going to be looking into the classes. So in Chata, I just flipped over to data chat. This is a neat little feature where you can build queries if you're not quite sure where to start. But I'm going to pick my QuickBooks Online data source here and start asking questions. So I'm going to take a look at the data, see what classes are available. And, I've likely set up this account, so I probably already know. But sometimes it's a good idea to just explore what I'm working with. So these are all of the classes that are available. Classes by revenue last year is my next question. So how is each of these performing? What I might want to do is throw this into a visual. Perfect. So I can see that commercial HVAC is absolutely my highest profitability class, or revenue class at least. And then next is residential, and then we've got more commercial. Looks like it's winning the day here. If I go back to that table format, I can also arrange that in order of most to least revenue, so you can view it in that way as well. So from this information, I can sort that table and see which areas or which classes of the business are top performers. And this is a really quick way to show your client super valuable information about their business. Did my client know what classes and areas were their top and bottom performers? Is this something that they're tracking? Likely, if they're using classes, they're taking a look at their performance. But understand, laying it out can be super powerful. Now, the next question I'll likely ask is, is there any trends? So total revenue by class, by month, and year to date. I want this to be as relevant to my current state as possible. So perfect. It's listing out all of my classes, all of the performance this year. It looks like that my commercial projects have taken a halt. Not much going on in August so far. We are at the beginning of the month. And I can put this into a heat map. So again, dark blue is best in terms of revenue. We've got the most revenue happening here and consistently over time. So with this kind of data, you can look at trends across multiple points. So what is trending this year? Is there any insight that I can derive or other questions I might need to ask before I proceed? With this plumbing company, their classes are broken out into residential and commercial, as we've already seen. And the majority of the client's revenue is coming from those commercial HVAC sales. So from this information, I can look to see that residential HVAC creates far less revenue. And based off this information, a question I might ask is, does it make sense to continue pursuing residential sales? What is the opportunity cost, and is it worth it? Might it be profitable to invest in this area of the business? Maybe we need to put a little bit more into it. I can provide my client with the opportunity to make a decision to focus more efforts on commercial HVAC and forgo residential section. It shows them that they need to focus more time, or as another alternative, if my client wants to keep its residential section, it shows them that they might need to focus more time on marketing and sales to grow their efforts in the residential section. So the decision that they might make is to set a data target, and the target is collecting and analyzing data for a set amount of time. Maybe it's going into it. Maybe the residential sales are a stream kind of an entry point for the commercial sales, and they're a relationship building point. We need to do a little bit more digging. So after that SMART goal is reached, so collecting and analyzing data over a specific period of time, they will opt to make a decision based on that data to go forward. So let's say my client wants to focus their efforts more on commercial HVAC as it provides them with the most amount of revenue today, and they'd like to continue to grow it. So they're going to focus their energy there. We will set some SMART goals. Again, there will likely be some more exploration involved to get specific here. But what percentage of growth is reasonable to achieve in a specific amount of time? How will we measure the success of the actions that we decide to take towards this goal? Now, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to create a dashboard, or maybe a few dashboards, and I'm going to create a report. What is the difference between a dashboard and a report, and when should I use each? This is a really common question that I'll get. Reports are static documents that contain data in text, table, and visual form. Reports will tell a full and thorough data story, and it's important to optimize its presentation. Reports are provided to appropriate stakeholders periodically, typically, and they are great to provide and go through before a periodic update meeting. So go through it before and during the meeting. That's a bit more of an update meeting, making sure that everyone is on the same page. They're looking at the exact same data. So the data isn't updated in real time. It serves its own purpose, generally used for strategic planning and updates. Dashboards are a visualization tool which should be customized to display metrics, data, and KPIs. Dashboards are typically dynamic, so flexible visualizations, and they provide real-time data. Dashboards can be high-level or extremely specific. So they're ideal for everyday operational BI and analytical needs, and should be tailored to the requirements of the user. So based off my client's request, I'm going to create a class-specific dashboard to monitor the overall sales for commercial HVAC class, and Chata's dashboards are a great way for both the customer and the accountant to keep a pulse on what's going on in the business, as we're always pulling that up-to-date information. So it is real time here. I'm going to navigate back over to my dashboard, and I've already set this up, or rather Erica set this up for me earlier today, so thank you, Erica. So this is our commercial HVAC, and I kind of want to go through this use case in terms of this is what the CEO might want to see, and then we get a little bit more specific, looking at specific sales and inventory quantities, which is what the sales and operations leaders might be looking at. So with our high-level sales, we're looking at this beautiful dashboard. So sales year to date, sales this month, trends over time, what are my top products and services, what are my bottom products and services within this class, top 5 customers last month, and bottom 5 customers last month. So taking a look at some of the bigger overarching themes that we want to keep a pulse on. Now, Chata's dashboards are pretty cool because you can edit them. They're extremely flexible. So you can see when I go to edit, we've got total revenue for this month. This is the query. So this is what you're actually asking for. You can get nice and specific. So we're getting into those, that specific class, for example. And there's just really dynamic. So you can, I can move this all around, and, I'm not going to mess this up because Erica did a really nice job on this one, but they are nice and dynamic. And I can also drill down really quickly and easily. So if I want to see the details of the sales from my air conditioners last month, I can see who those customers were, who I'm selling to. Now, if I move over to this commercial HVAC sales and inventory dashboard, you can see here I'm also tracking my inventory in QuickBooks Online, and I'm looking at 2 of my top products. So large air conditioner inventory versus large air conditioner sales. So you can see, is this optimized? Same thing for our 60-gallon water tanks both inventory levels and product sales over time. So are these things lining up? Can we optimize? This is a really cool visualization, inventory quantity on hand history. So this would be, looking at over the months, why with this product right here, is it consistently really high? So you can get into these operational details, potentially save yourself some, or save the client some cash in terms of, you don't need to be purchasing so much of these. You don't need to be paying for the storage costs. There's a huge opportunity to dig into the discussion here. So that is our dashboards, and that's an example of how you could set it up for this specific use case. I'm also going to mosey on over to Mosey. Who says that? I say that now. Fun words today. So templates. So these are reports that you will run ad hoc or on a scheduled basis. So this one is set up exactly as the dashboard. Typically a report would be a little bit more detailed, more granular. But you can see I have the ability to run this guy and it'll give me my data in seconds. I can also schedule this to run automatically. I've got text that I can work with, and I can also edit this to add additional text. Potentially I'll want to, turn any of these into a visual format. You can see I have the option to do that quickly and easily here, which is really nice. And then when I go to save it as a report. Save. And if you want to go through a more in-depth demo, because I'm a talker, so we're getting close to our time, we are always happy to connect and go through these features in more detail. So now that I've saved my report, you can see that it is in fact timestamped at the bottom, so we know when this data was relevant, and I can add additional text if I want to. So if I click edit, I can change the titles. I can add additional text. So if I needed to supplement in whatever way, or have a call to action, or potentially link something external, I can include that here. I'm gonna stop editing. And then from here, I can start to collaborate with my clients within the app. So sometimes we'll include text within the report to supplement the data story that you're telling. And then other times you just need to provide an additional comment, and you don't want to take away from the story that you're telling. So you can add a comment here. So, very important thing to say, add the comment, and the client will be notified to take a look because it's got that little blue dot there. So they can take a look at any additional details that they might want to see here. Okay, so what if I don't want my client having access to Chata's dashboards? Maybe they just want me to send them reports about what's going on in the business. I get this question all the time. And this is really a bigger conversation around how involved your client is with your service, as well as their level of data maturity. So why you don't want to provide access to their data in real time is something you should be asking yourself. We've already made the assumption with this client that they're engaged in moving towards a data-driven culture. But if that's something that you're not quite there with yet, it is a process, and everyone's coming to this from a different point. There are read-only permissions available in Chata, so they'd only see what you shared with them. So that is available as well. So that is a pretty full review of, well, not pretty full. I feel like it was pretty high-level review of Chata.ai. So if you want to dig into the goods, we can totally connect offline. But to kind of wrap it up, and I'll take about 2 minutes to do this here, I just want to show you one, final component of Chata that you could add to your service today that would really make a huge impact on the client experience. So I want to talk about the data chat functionality. Again, I started off with the data chat functionality at the beginning, and I wanted to end, as I said, powerful opportunity to create an outstanding client experience, which is what we're all aiming to do all the time. We know that 90% of software users are not power users of the system. I talked about this earlier. You as financial pros fit into that 10% of power users of the accounting software. Like, you literally do days worth of training on QuickBooks Online, Xero, or whatever your weapon of choice is. So we often forget that the client is not necessarily a power user of the accounting software. So to get the information out of those systems when they need it is typically kind of a painful process and not an awesome experience for them. So when it comes back to impact you as well. Everyone is familiar with those interruptive phone calls and emails from clients at every hour of the day and night. Now, I know some really progressive firms might use a support desk-like tool, but ultimately the client still doesn't necessarily get what they want when they need it. So you can encourage your client to use Chata when they need it to get their answers. Might be at 3 a.m, might be when you're in the middle of a meeting with another client, right? So it's all about giving them what they need when they need it. So it becomes a workflow optimizer, and an area that can and should be self-serve for the client. They should be able to get what they need when they need it, without having to jump through hoops, and without you getting your day interrupted. It now easily is a self-serve option. You have less calls and emails to deal with. The client literally asks for what they want on their mobile application via Chata. So we've designed Chata to be super easy to access and analyze your client's data, whether it's providing more insight into clients' classes tracking categories, understanding their historical cash flow, adding insight with weather and sales analysis. Chata is a tool that can provide you deeper insights and greater value for your clients, which in turn builds trust between the accountant-client relationship, and is better for you as the advisor if you're walking through those steps on a regular basis that we chatted about earlier. So that is it from me, because we want to have time for Q&A, and I have a feeling there's going to be a few of them. But I just want to leave everyone with this one last quote from Firm of the Future's blog. And I believe this one's from Rhonda Lynn, actually. So this is an amazing blog. Everyone needs to read it. It's called "Here's Why Apps Aren't the Answer to Advisory." And I didn't get to tune in for her opening statement, but she's amazing. As you transition to advisory, your value will be tied to the impact that you can create. Your value and the amount that you can charge will be proportionate to the insights and impact you can deliver based on your ever-expanding knowledge, skills, focus, and mindset. So really reiterating that it is a process, and insights are super powerful. So that is me. Any questions?
And while we wait for that, we've got one last poll that we pop up, and there have been questions.
Cool.
So let me just launch this first. Okay, so the second poll is the functionality in Chata.ai that I want to learn more about is either reports, dashboards, data chat, in-app user collaboration, or I'm not interested in learning anything more about Chata.
Please don't pick number 5. Be honest. Be honest.
Well, it's not for everybody. What I really like about Chata is that, of course, we all know that clients get into their QuickBooks, they can start mucking things up. So if we can, get them to just to look for the information, they're not doing something that would,
Preach.
more
Yeah.
work for us to try to fix data that they've done. So that's what I love about it, that they can get what they need. And I mean, it's kind of cool who the data chat. That's very cool.
Yeah, it really reinforces that quality control component that we talked a little bit about earlier, because quality of the data is critical to advisory, and especially data-driven advisory, right? Which I would argue that most advisory should be driven by data.
Absolutely.
I think so. So that quality control component that you just touched on is absolutely a huge opportunity, and something, like I mentioned previously, that you can get started with today. Like all of those steps that I walked through, it's a lot of work. And if it's not in your current workflows and processes, it takes time to build up to that stage. So what I always like to do is kind of pick out, what is my, penthouse version of what I want to create with my clients and my offering. And then what are some small changes that I can make today to take the step in that direction? And that very much is a really powerful step that you can take. So
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so we're at 72%. So we will count down. We'll give 10 more seconds, and then we'll share the results, and then we can jump right into the questions that have been coming in through chat. So 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, and polling and sharing the results. So there's one person that Chata didn't speak to, and that's okay because
Okay.
not every app is for everybody, right? So
Absolutely, and it's really important to recognize that too. So I see you.
and that's part of the purpose of this whole advisor series is so people can learn how and learn, what tools they could use to assist them in that. And maybe some people will, just like one or two tools that'll speak to them more. Maybe some people will like a combination of them or say, hey, this one might be good for this client and this one might be good for this client. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
perfect. Okay, so stop sharing those results. So what we've got in chat for you then, Haley, is so we're going back, so accounting suite. So does this, going back to what this integrates with, so does this integrate with accounting suite?
No, we have had a little bit of communication with their, I think CEO and CTO. So there's certainly discussion there. Yeah, Chata is currently building out another product that's focused on apps. So I think that might be where that opportunity is. So similar functionality, but within that product. But it hasn't gone further than, some initial conversation. So if that's something that you want, I'll take that note back to our team as well as an accounting suite integration.
Very cool. Okay. And then we've got the next one. Is there, and I think you've already answered this. So the question reads, is there comparison info, for example, versus Live Plan or Kavinci? So I'm assuming, and this came in right at the beginning, so I'm assuming, can you compare the periods, which you absolutely did compare the periods.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think probably, to be completely honest with you, I am not, well versed in Kavinci software. So I can do some research and I'm happy to get back to you at a later time. And that was for Kim, correct?
Yes, correct.
Amazing. Yeah. So I can take a look. So I think like the biggest differentiator from Chata to pretty much every single other reporting tool out there is the ask questions, get answers. And why that's important is that it's easy to use and you can get really granular. So when I talk about going from what, you can absolutely do that. What is going on in the business, but then to drill down into why, which is in the details. Like sometimes transactional level details, that's not typically super available if at all in a little bit more rigid solutions. I'm not saying that Kavinci is rigid. I haven't taken a look at their software. But I think I'm seeing right now on Kavinci's website, financial consolidation, we don't handle that currently. But definitely ask questions, get answers, and that is the foundation of the rest of our reporting tools. So.
Well, and Kavinci and Live Plan are both part of the series, and so you'll be able to, take a good look into them as well. And then don't forget, at the very end, we're having a finale that apparently some people didn't realize. They didn't look. But and this was actually Haley's idea, so I think it's a great idea that we're having a panel. The finale is just a panel of everybody. Hopefully, they all show up. I've made sure to invite everybody, and then that way, if you didn't want to, sit down and compare back and forth and ask Haley, how something would be handled there versus, how something would be handled in Live Plan and Kavinci, like that's a great opportunity to be able to do that, to be able to re-ask those questions.
Yeah, I think one more point there is that a lot of reporting tools is a tool that only the financial pro will use, and they'll use it in those regular conversations or share with the client. Whereas with Chata, we really highly encourage that it's a client-facing tool. The client can use it, so that might be a slight differentiator as well. But again, not super educated on Kavinci. Live Plan, there's a lot of, I think, business planning and strategy involved. That might be a good tool to use in tandem with Chata. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And then so also, is there a certification program?
Not yet, but it's currently under production. So
awesome.
It's in the works. Yes.
Perfect. And then can the client-facing dashboard be customized with our brand?
Hey, that is a really great question. So we, depending on the size of firm, so we do work with some quite large organizations, we can do a custom customization for you. It's not currently available for you to add your own colors, logos. There is the opportunity to add your logos to the reports that go out, but the dashboard functionality, not yet.
No, I think you guys have come a long way in such a short time. It's you guys are still fairly new. Really, you're still fairly new. It's
launched about a year ago.
Exactly.
And it was very much an MVP at that point, a minimum viable product at that time. So, but we wanted to get it out into the hands of our partners, so our accountants and bookkeepers, so that we could best serve you, because we've really come at this from the business owner's perspective. What is missing in their relationship from the accountant and their experience with the accounting bookkeeping practice. So we really wanted to bring in the advisors and really make it a tool that you can leverage and to take your advisory practices to the next level.
Yeah, no, it's been really exciting to see because, of course, we've been working with you right since the very beginning, I think. So it's been really exciting to see. And of course, for those of you who don't know out there, just a little shout out to Chata. They were actually part of the $100,000 app challenge at San Jose last year.
Yeah, that was an absolute blast. Yeah,
absolutely. So so they're doing well. So these other ideas of things to add, absolutely. Yeah, I think like they're always really open to things. So that's great. Okay. So other questions. So you've got 2 people have asked about the pricing levels.
Yeah, totally. So we do have partner pricing available. So there's an initial discount of about 25%. It's not exact, and I know you guys like to work in exact numbers, so it's about 25% off. And then we have bulk pricing options. So essentially it works on a sliding scale. The more clients that you add, the price will drop down per client. So I can share with you, Tanya, to go out after additional partner pricing information so that everyone can have the breakdown instead of me kind of walking through it right now, as I know we're crunched for time. So I can just send all that information if that works okay for you.
Yep, absolutely. That will be in the links in the email once you receive the recording in the email. And then just to verify, because I know some people might ask this, if you have one paid client, our Pro Advisor one is free, correct? Once you've got one paid?
You just need to have 4 clients connected. They don't even need to be in our premium. So we do have a free version.
Okay.
And I should go back. So premium starts at $19 per month if you're buying on an annual basis. So that's the price point that you'll start with. And then it drops from there. But we do have a free version. As long as you have 4 client data sources connected, they don't even need to be paid. Your own partner data source, you'll get a free complimentary subscription to a client your partner's firm, because you guys are business owners as well. We want to give you the access. And then of course we do have that demo data set that is free, and you have access to the premium features free forever with the demo data set.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so somebody's asked the blog reference for the closing quotes. That would be Rhonda Lynn's. I can make sure that we, again, include that in.
I have a link right here. I'll send it right now, and then I'll just paste it in the chat here.
Perfect. And then I'll make sure that we can add that.
Oh, that went to just panelists. I'll do that again. Panelists. I always make that mistake. There we go. Cool. So that blog post reference is right there. Yeah. And then I think Robin and Erica, so 2 of my team members, have put together like a little bit of a landing page that we'll share with you, Tanya, and we'll include, we can share our slides and whatnot as well to go out. So we're always happy to share those resources.
Beautiful. Okay, perfect. That's great. So if there's any other questions, now will be the time to go ahead and type them in. I know we're just over, but I think that is probably about it. Of course, if there's any questions at all, you can definitely reach out to Haley. I will have all of their contact information, ways to book a demo, all of that will all be included in the email with the recording. So you've got that. Haley's all over social media, very easy to reach, very open, very, very, giving and sharing with her time to be able to help you set everything up to make sure that you're doing everything successfully. So.
Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. I appreciate those kind words. Always a pleasure to be included in this. So really thanks to everyone for tuning in today. And as Tanya
said, he was quiet the whole time. All right. Okay, great. Well, there's no other questions, so I guess we will stop from here, and that's great. So yeah, just lots of great comments, and people say great sessions, that they've got a really good sense of what it looks like and what they can do, and that's great and perfect. And yeah, your dog's got perfect timing.
She's done. She was so good.
It's funny, I could hear kind of little growls at a little bit through, but then I had mine down here, and I'm like, is it mine? Is it mine?
No, she's being a little messy this morning, so I apologize for that. I should have put her in her little house. But
you know what? I think most of us work remote and have that where we've got our 4-legged fur babies or our 2-legged babies or whatever. So that's
life, absolutely.
Exactly.
And she was right on time. She was like, "It's time to get off the webinar. Stop talking."
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for attending, and then don't forget, same time next week. And I can't remember who's next, but we'll have another one. And Haley, we will talk to you Wednesday.
Hey, sounds so good.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thanks so
everyone.
much. Take care, everybody. Okay, bye.
Bye.